original, and take it back. And
Good.
then
All
we're ready to go.
right.
Start tomorrow.
That's true.
Adequate notice of this meeting was provided in the Transfer Chronicle, advertised on January 16, 2015. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and posted to the Municipal Public Bulletin Board and filed in the Office of the Municipal Clerk, informing the public of the time and place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Guerriello, do you have a report for this evening?
Just a few things. We're prepared the specs for both the sewer work and the sidewalk. As soon as the ordinances are effective and legal, I will go out with it.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Guerriello?
I have one, Mayor.
Okay.
The water company that's doing the work on Third Avenue, do you
Yes.
know how far into that project they are?
They're doing all of Third Avenue. I think they've completed the 400 block, they're in the 300 block.
Okay,
And I believe that they, according to their notice, they're doing all of Third Avenue.
That's
Right.
correct.
So they're working their way, I told them to do the other school first, to get out of there, and they've done that.
Right.
And they're working their way east.
okay. They've done the 100 block as well.
Oh, okay, I didn't even know
I
that.
thought they actually did that one before the 300 block, but
Could
maybe,
be,
maybe they're all done then.
could be. Just last week when I got notice about them being back in town, I asked them to make sure they got out of school areas, first. So I didn't know they had to work on 100 block.
Thank you.
By your comments, I assume you're watching over them?
Not really, only if they.
I have no problem
Only if
with
there's
that.
complaints. They have their own responsibilities and
Okay.
they've got permits for all the work they're doing.
Okay. Anyone else? At the last meeting, I mentioned the state is accepting DOT grant application.
Yes.
Where are we in that process?
Tina and I will be talking about a list, and we'll probably have it done by the end of the week, get it off to you people, and we can discuss it at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, Mr. Arnott?
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see, we have a few things for you. You've got, already have the bond ordinance and the junior firefighter ordinance on for second reading tonight. In terms of what's going on, I've gotten several requests from members of council and from the council in general for action. I have received recently a request from Councilman Disco to revise the dumpster ordinance, which we'll do, and we'll have that hopefully for you to look at for the next meeting. I've got a request from Councilman Tarantino to clean up and finish up the resident preferential parking ordinance, and we'll have that for the next meeting. I got a request from the planning board through Councilman Neerstedt to look at the engineering aspects of projects that have been approved by the planning board. I've drafted that and am circulating it, and hopefully I'll have something for you to consider again at the next meeting. And then I got another request from Councilman Neerstedt that he may have some comments about relating to a recently enacted statute that allows the governing body to implement the statute by enacting an ordinance which authorizes the municipality to compel mortgage lenders who are foreclosing on property to maintain that property, to require that they provide notice to the municipality, which the clerk tells me that they are doing, but we do not have the capacity until we enact this ordinance to require that they make repairs and to fine them if they don't, and to do the repairs and leave the property if they don't do that. So working on drafting that ordinance, and it's almost done. So I'll have that for you for the next meeting also, I believe. So I've made it ambitious the next couple of weeks for myself, and I've got a week and a half vacation in there, but I'm still hopeful of getting everything that I've promised done within that time frame. I think that's it for my report, Mayor, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Renard?
Just a comment, Bob, I want to thank you for the work you put forth, and I did submit, Tina distributed to everybody this evening, a little background on the abandoned properties ordinance that I'm recommending, and I appreciate everyone reading it. If you have any questions, or hopefully I have your support to advance that. The other thing I also had sent over to Tina, I think she sent out via email, is the actual Abandoned Properties Rehabilitation Act itself that the state adopted. And so again, if anybody has any questions, Bob or I hope they can answer that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I actually do have a quick question. It might be for Ms. Ariam on this. I did read it in the email today, so in concept, I definitely support this. I know that abandoned properties have to file with you, right?
No, the mortgage company, when a foreclosures take place, has to tell me, send me a note saying, you know, who I contact if there's issues with it.
Okay.
But like Mr. Mark said, it doesn't let me do anything about it. I
Right.
know, the chief and I know who to call,
Right.
but we have no leverage to make them fix it.
Right, so they're on file, but there's no leverage, there's no fines, and so forth.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
The reason is because they're not the property owner, that's why. So
Okay.
this statute allows us to compel them to, it has to be abandoned, it's not just foreclosed, but there's you'll see there's a definition of abandonment that's in the statute.
Mhm.
So if there's actually, for example, if somebody was living in the property, and it was being foreclosed on, then the property owner has to maintain it. And they'd be subject to fine. This really affects abandoned properties that are being foreclosed on.
So it's interesting, so this is the lender in their capacity as lender, but before they become owner.
Before they become the owner, that's right.
And do we have any idea how many municipalities across the state of New Jersey have adopted this?
No, don't know. I know there were some because I stole some of their ordinances. But I couldn't tell you how many.
Save us some money.
This is one of the things I'm concerned about, is that this is gonna add to the cost of lending, and if this is gonna be looked unfavorably upon by lenders, it could drive up the cost of mortgages, also make mortgages less available in the borough. Parenthetically, one of the things that the state of New Jersey has done has been to inhibit the market recovery of the housing market substantially, primarily through laws such as these. The housing market bounced back substantially in most parts of the country before New Jersey, and primarily that was because it's so difficult to foreclose in New Jersey. So now on top of that, the government is making it difficult to foreclose and then putting burdens on the lender for a process that's far too cumbersome to begin with. So I wouldn't want us to go ahead and do something that's not gonna add a half a point to your mortgage or make it harder for homeowners to find lenders to get property in the borough. On top of that, to try to figure out if someone's living at a place versus whether or not the lender needs to go there, I could just see that being an absolute nightmare. And I wonder about the enforceability of this. I just got my house appraised, so if you're gonna pass this, wait till my refi is done. But my house now is finally $3,000 less than I paid for it in 2008. And that is directly attributable to government policies in New Jersey that went ahead and stalled this housing recovery. It would have snapped back much quicker had the market been allowed to clear, lenders been allowed to foreclose, and then you get the property in the hands of somebody who wants to maintain it. So I really would want to go ahead and see, make sure we don't go tripping into some unintended consequence of making it more difficult to get mortgages in Garwood.
Jim, there's no argument with you at all about how difficult it is for I know myself. With what I do, it is very difficult. I think it's kind of different though, because the purpose of this is to ensure that if you do have an abandoned property, as Bob mentioned, it's defined in the statute. That property is, unfortunately, it would, if it was say next to your house, next to my house, it would indeed reduce the value. And so this is just making sure that there is someone responsible, that someone is indeed known by the borough, that they have to maintain it, you know who to contact, they have to register it with the borough, and by putting a cost on the registering, you're encouraging them to put that property, fix that property, put it back on the market, so it doesn't sit and sit and sit, as you and I both know, a number of abandoned homes do. So I think it will be positive for the scene on the ordinance.
And that would just be my question, that the definition that you have, again, this brings me back to law school, that you have these wonderful definitions made up by lawyers, and I would want to know, is this going to be the zoning officer? Is this going to be somebody in Captain Stouffer's department who is in charge of going ahead and ascertaining this? And I would want to get an opinion from them as to how it's supposed to be ascertained. So if somebody says my property is abandoned, I say, well, I don't know, I married somebody who has a house in Cranford, I stay there most of the time, my house isn't abandoned, you just don't like the way I keep my property. How are these guys gonna go ahead and enforce that? That's kind of my question. So I don't want us to put something on the books that's gonna make it more difficult, more expensive to get mortgages, and that is impossible to enforce. So if there's any type of history on the enforcement of this, again, this just sounds to me like unintended consequences all wrapped up, fighting the last war. As the market's finally beginning to recover in New Jersey, the state makes it easier for municipalities to go ahead and inhibit it once again.
Thank you. Continue on. Ms. Ariam, do you have the report for this evening?
No report, Mayor.
Okay, unfinished business? Any new business? None being heard, I have a couple of items on my mayor's report. This is just a reminder that the Garwood Sports and Recreation Complex has been selected as a recipient of the 2015 New Jersey Planning Officials Award. The presentation will take place at a breakfast on Friday, September 18, 2015, at 7:30 a.m. at the Somerset Hills Hotel. Yes. I didn't make it up. Continuing, September is National Hunger Action Month, and on Wednesday, September 16th, at the Garwood ShopRite, we'll be hosting a Help Bag Hunger event, where the cashiers will be accepting donations to fill the shelves of local food banks. I am pleased to participate in the ShopRite Partners in Caring Day by contributing my begging skills and bagging skills for about an hour. Please come by to support this effort. I will be happy to see you all there. Also, September is also Childhood Cancer and cell disease Awareness Month. I have asked our business administrator to put a proclamation on our September 8th agenda in support of this effort of the Valerie Fund, a program in the metropolitan area that provides support for the comprehensive health care of children with cancer and blood disorders for the past 40 years. That's all for my report this evening, and we should continue on. Comments or matters for discussion from members of council? I see Councilman Martin's out this evening. Councilman Matthew?
No comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Petroselli?
No report.
Thank you. Councilman Tarantino?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have an update. A few meetings ago, I had given a report on the village of Garwood, and I had stated what was told to me at the time, that there was 45 cars at the villages at that time. To clarify, what that actually was there was 45 applicants with cars. Not all 45 of those applicants qualified. So as of today, what they have is 47 signed leases. And of those 47 signed leases, 36 have cars. So we know that they have 70 units, so that leaves 23 more units to qualify. So if I do the math, that would be 59 possible cars or less, because not every unit may have a car, as we saw with the 47, not everyone had a car. So we know that they have 40 spots, so if we do get the maximum of 59 cars, that would put 19 cars on the street. Or less. Or less.
Worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario would be 19 cars.
Thank you. Anything else?
Or less, those are just numbers, because right now, like I said, they have 47 signed leases and 36 cars as of today. So that's my update on the Village of Garwood.
Thank you.
I just have a question on that. That, if none of the remaining 23 people have a single car, that's already exceeded the ratio planned for by the planning board. The planning board was doing about, I think, one spot for every 3 or one for every 4 was the average nationally. Right now, if not a single person of those remaining 23 has a car, and we know they will, we're already at a 2-for-1 ratio on that. Is there a way to communicate that back to the planning board, that their ratio was wildly optimistic, so they have future notice of plans like this? Because this is kind of a big oops.
I will bring that back.
I do have another question. Any word on whether St. Anne's will give them spaces? Are they still negotiating?
She was supposed to communicate with Father Villanova. I don't believe she has, but from what I understand, I was not at the last planning board meeting, but from what I understand, and Mayor may.
If I may speak,
Yes.
you know, I was at the last planning board meeting, and there was a question about the parking in the St. Anne facility. The lawyer from the Archdiocese of Newark explicitly said that they weren't allowed to have any leasing or renting or anything other than activity parking in that lot. Activity meaning church.
But don't they lease spots for commuters as it is?
As far as the statement at the board was, there is not being leased.
Really?
I don't feel willing to admit.
Right, well, anyway.
Okay?
That's all, man.
Thank you. Councilwoman Tedesco.
Thank you, Mayor. I've 2 items. One is, I was wondering where we're at with Cranford with the building department.
As far as I know, it will be on your agenda at the next first September meeting.
Okay, so
I'll
that-
make a phone call the next day or two to confirm that.
Okay, thanks,
I
Mayor.
actually did speak to Mr. Lucio today, and I guess they're discussing. The thing that I want to say in public is I'm concerned with them not accepting or not wanting to have a agreement with us the way we presented it, and then getting too close to the expiration for us to regroup. So I just want you to all think about that.
Right.
If they're just discussing it now,
Aren't they technically past their deadline that we
yes, we
gave
gave them
them?
a few deadlines, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So. That sounds like it would be a bit of a concern, but, and then the other item I
I
have.
don't want to say that it's not a concern, but I doubt very much that DCA will let them just terminate the agreement on notice. So
Right.
I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
I'm not worried about them terminating it. I'm more concerned that they won't maybe accept our offer, but we'll see.
Well, the last time I spoke to one of the committeemen, he had mentioned that it would be on the agenda, and that he asked me directly whether there were any changes. Yes, they are, and should be reviewing that in detail.
Okay. And then, seeing as the Laws and License Chairman is not here tonight, I just want to bring up for everyone that, as I mentioned at the last council meeting, Laws and License was reviewing a social media policy in order to bring back a Garwood Facebook page. And so that was distributed in everyone's council packet on Friday. So this is, I would think, the appropriate time to discuss it. If anyone would like any changes made, I think this is the time.
Council?
I just have a question. Was this reviewed at the full, with the full Laws and License Committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all 3 members are present, including the chairperson?
We've had
We've
meetings.
had communication.
We've had communication over it.
But not a formal 3-person meeting, sitting down with the 3 of you talking about this?
Well, we had a sit-down meeting, but Councilwoman Tarantino was sick that night, so
But
there
I
were 2 of
reviewed
us.
it and we've had communication.
Okay, so at that meeting, there was the chairperson and you.
myself.
And yourself, okay,
And then I was not at that meeting, but then I've discussed it with the three of them since then.
okay. And has this come out of the committee unanimously?
Mhm.
Yes.
All right, I guess the first question I have on this is, Mayor, what were the results of the investigation about what happened to what the previous Facebook page the borough had, and people inviting and invites to your fundraiser for your mayoral campaign? Excuse me, can I ask my question, please, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor, what were the results of any investigation? Was there an investigation conducted into exactly what happened with invites being sent from the borough Facebook page out to citizens of Garwood for your fundraiser when you were running for mayor?
Well, I hope I'm not making this political, Councilman, first of all. And as far as what happened, you realize it happened last year, and I haven't been privy to that information. So I really can't answer your question, to be honest.
Okay, so you don't know what occurred?
What? It's obvious you must, because you were here.
Yeah, it's not, actually, no, I was here and I do not know what occurred. It's never been discussed at a council meeting, exactly what occurred. I've heard dribs and drabs. No one in the public has actually been told. There has been no press release, there's nothing in the minutes about it. We did an open request about communications regarding it, we got nothing on point. So right now, we have a big zero. So I would think as mayor, even though it happened before your tenure, Mayor, it's your responsibility to go ahead and make sure that an investigation was conducted, if not, to carry one out. And then secondly, to disclose the results of said investigation with the public.
Well, I prepared a little statement. As mentioned in my address as a reorganization meeting January 1st, I encourage the adoption of a policy in order to govern the use of social media here in the borough, especially bringing back the Borough of Garwood's Facebook page. It was taken down last year after an incident occurred. This was a time when the borough did not have a social media policy in place. It was handled by the previous mayor under the advisement of the borough attorney. We cannot go back in time. Instead, I encourage the council to focus on adopting a social media policy. I beg your pardon. To be a little considerate, if you're gonna laugh, why don't you leave the dais?
No, why don't you leave the dais?
No, I don't think.
When you say stuff like that you deserve to be laughed at,
Yeah,
Mayor,
right. No,
all right?
I don't-
That's a
I
derogation
don't
of
care what you
responsibility,
think. This is
okay?
not-
And this is poor reflection on you,
Right.
Mayor. It shows you have no ethics.
Right. You have them all, Jim.
Can't go back in time.
That is an unbelievably embarrassing statement. So we're gonna go ahead, pass a policy. Can I go ahead, can I have as much time as Councilwoman Tedisco gets?
Yes, good.
Okay. So we're gonna go pass a social media policy, and we're not even gonna address what occurred previously. How do we know that this policy will go ahead and prevent that from
I hope
happening
that
again?
the Laws and License Committee has taken that into consideration. They were all here at the time.
Okay, so they know what happens. Can they disclose it to the public?
I will finish what I'm reading. We cannot go back in time. Instead, I encourage the council to focus on adopting a social media policy and moving forward so that the borough can improve the communications with the residents who have a Facebook page, as most every other municipality has in the area. Thank you.
From Laws and License and being up here last year, it was the previous mayor that made a statement about this. She was under the advisement of the borough attorney. At the time, we didn't have a social media policy, and he suggested that we remove the page until we got a social media policy. Well, now that's exactly what we're trying to do, is put one in place and move forward. So that's where it left off.
Councilwoman Tedisco, what's your understanding? Can you explain on the record exactly what it was that happened where invitations were sent from the borough Facebook page to your fundraiser when you were running for re-election?
I'm not looking to go over what happened in the past. I'm
Why
looking
not?
to go.
Why
I'm
not?
looking to go forward with the borough to put a policy in place to govern a social media page as many other municipalities have, and as they have a policy for. That's what I want to speak about here in workshop, is what we actually think about the policy. And quite honestly, whether or not it should be brought back.
So in terms of procedure, is this going to be a proposal that the borough adopt this social media policy by resolution? There's presumably at the next meeting.
That's what laws and license is looking for.
Okay.
And I support that.
All right, so that's, right now, that's the, I guess that's the question, is you have a recommendation from the Laws and Licenses Committee.
I just have a couple questions on the policy, if I could then, since I'm the only person here is asking about it. Councilwoman Tarantino, how did the Borough Facebook page come into possession of the invitation to Mayor Lombardo, Councilman Petrozelli, and Councilwoman Tedisco's fundraiser?
Okay, that's actually not a question about the current policy that's in front of you.
Do you have any knowledge, can you state on the record, do you have any knowledge how that invitation came into the possession of the Borough Facebook page?
That, again, is not a question on the current policy in front of you.
Mayor, with all due respect, I don't think this should be an interrogation. We should discuss the
We're not-
policy.
This is not a witch hunt, first of all.
It's not,
Okay.
I want to find out what happened there. Mayor, you covered
There's
this
a,
substance.
I'm not covering anything.
You're covering it up. Okay.
Enough said that.
Listen,
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a statement and a few more questions.
Please make your statement.
Okay, my statement is, I was born in 1971. I don't recall the Nixon administration, but I would think that you do, Mayor, and that you may have learned that the cover-up is often worse than the crime. If someone could please just buck up, say what it is that happened, and then we can go ahead and be confident as a community that this policy addresses the inappropriate invitation to your fundraiser, Mayor, from the Borough Facebook page. The inappropriate invitation that caused the original Borough Facebook page to be taken down.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Any other comments? If none, let's move on. Council President Nierstedt.
Thank you, Mayor. I received an anonymous letter through the mail, and I guess everyone else did too. I received it, it was addressed to me, it was sent to the mayor.
I didn't get it.
You didn't get it? All
I think
right.
it was just the planning board.
All right, well, since I received it, and I don't know who the person is who sent it, and I don't know any other way to respond, I apologize to everyone, but it's just 2 paragraphs, and just for the public, I just want to read the letter and then respond so that whoever sent it gets her answer, his or her answer, I don't know. It says, Dear Mayor Lombardo, I would like to express my concern about demolition work being conducted at 906 Center Street. There is extensive removal of building materials being conducted without proper safety precautions. As an example, there is no fencing/barriers in place. As this is a high traffic area near Unanimous Park, I'm questioning why this is being allowed. Is the increase in tax revenue the reason why no action by Garwood is being taken to ensure the safety of its residents? The only thing I can say to that is the borough doesn't actually require any fencing. There are barriers, I guess they typically mean the Soil Conservation Service barriers are put around when you have soil movement. Since there is no soil movement on site, there's actually none required. I can speak, and I will speak to the construction official to see if something does have to be done, but there actually is no requirement, so that's why there's no fencing out there. Second paragraph, in addition, based on the level of work being done, as a Garwood resident, one would wonder if the planning board should have been consulted as to the nature of the proposed renovations. This was a single-family house with a garage, which now is a gutted shell. Because it's a single-family house, the planning board actually has no jurisdiction over it. This would not go to the planning board. So, in terms of the planning board being consulted, they have no jurisdiction over it. It's just a straight construction official, construction department issue, and so they would take care of any issues, not the planning board. The last sentence is the quote word in the street, that are planning a 2-family house in the aforementioned property. I have spoken to the owner. It is a husband, wife, 2 children. It is a single-family home, and so I can put that to rest right away that it is indeed going to be a single-family house. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, carry on. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, sign in, state your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and ladies and gentlemen. Joe Gola, 25 Woodland Avenue. I brought this up in the past, I'm bringing it up again because we had an incident, almost happened last week. with speeders on our street. My wife and I were talking to neighbors across the street, diagonally across one house, after supper, and we talk about various things. The daughter was coming home, she was backing the van into the driveway to load it up to go back to college. Some car came speeding down the street, a ridiculous rate of speed, flashing the lights, came to the westbound lane, and he was heading east, almost T-boned her. So I yelled, and I won't say what I said, you know, it was not very nice, but I let him know, like, this is not Raceway Park. And he came back and hit me in the gut, and, not hit me in the gut literally, but, you know, something that he said. So I gave him a comment back, and I said, I'm gonna get your license plate and report you. Well, with that, he took off and sped away like crazy. But I got a description of the car, and I've seen, it's not a car you see a lot of, and I have two possible addresses. But the thing is, we have to do something about the speeders. Somebody's gonna get hit, somebody's gonna get killed. I've almost been hit backing out of my driveway, and I lived there for 31 years, whatever, and know what the street's like. It's getting worse and worse. And God forbid if I get hit, my temper is ready to blow. So we really have to look into this, do something. Speed bumps, I don't know what. I know that the police do a great job when they can with radar out there, but they can't be there 24/7. Talk to some neighbors, oh, we don't want speed bumps. And I said, you'd rather have somebody get killed. We have young families moving in the neighborhood with little kids. The kids are running out in the street. They get hit, God forbid they get killed, that's gonna make things better. I know they've done it in Westfield. I go up and down Gallows Hill 3 times a week now, going to Overlook for cardiac rehab. I don't love those bumps, but I realize why they're there as a safety precaution. And I think we need that on Second Avenue. So I appreciate it if we can escalate this and do something about it. Thank you.
Anyone else like to stand forward?
Liz Matthew, 335 Hazel Avenue. Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Sterlington Churchill. Who sent the invitation? How do you know that the policy that you're introducing and that you're planning on adopting is going to address the issue if you don't know what happened and who sent it? You can't possibly come up with a plan if you don't know what the holes were in the first place. So who did it? Who did it? Do you know? Mayor? Do you know who did it?
The issue is the resolution, not the people. It's not a witch hunt.
It is not a witch hunt. I agree with you. I'm not here to conduct a witch hunt. I'm here to ask a question. I had requested through Oprah last year all of the records that had to do with the issue. I wanted emails, conversation, whatever notes were in place about the investigation. I was told there was nothing available. I sat here in the meeting, I listened to Mayor Quattrocki with her statement that said absolutely nothing, except that they were taking down the Facebook page at the insistence of the attorney. And I agree with that. It should have been removed at that time until you could find out what happened. But it seems like that was it. Nothing was done after that. Was an investigation conducted within the borough to find out what happened, who did it, and was that person or were those people held accountable? I think that's an issue, okay? Because what happened may not have been illegal, but it was certainly highly unethical. So who did it? And what are your plans, if you don't know, what are your plans to find out who did it before you do anything with this proposal? Because it could be an issue again. and you're putting a whole lot of pressure on the borough administrator to maintain that Facebook page and make sure that nobody hacks into it, make sure that nobody gets the password, make sure that nobody places an inappropriate post on there. That's a lot of pressure on the borough administrator. And you guys really need to think about that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Joe Sarno, 658 Willow Avenue, first floor. Signing in a moment. This agreement means nothing without accountability. It really does, it means nothing. I mean, you could write this 5, 10 pages long, doesn't make a difference. This happens to be 2 with 4 pages from Facebook. To me, that's what we do. There's no trust without accountability, and then this means nothing. So until then, I highly recommend that everyone here do not put this through, because we're not ready yet. We're not ready as a borough to go forward. And until then, I say hold off on it. It's not necessary anyway. It's only been helping certain people as it is. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Macomb, 119 Willow Avenue. One question for Mrs. Tarantino is, how many in the village, whatever it is over there, are Cranford residents have been approved? Or not Cranford, I'm sorry, Garwood.
I don't know that number. I don't know.
Okay. And also with the recycling, it has been atrocious with pickup, with the glass breakage in the street. There's been piles along Willow Avenue when they come through cleaning or getting rid of cars, but leaving the glass on the street. So I don't know who the company is, but something should be looked into it and get rid of them. We didn't have the problem before with waste management. It's now horrible.
Are they dropping glass in the street or?
There are piles of glass wherever they do along Willow Avenue. Like when they're going along, whether it's, they're crushing it up, whatever. But along Willow Avenue, there's spots of all the glass.
We have, the specs, have procedures for what they're required to do. So if you see something like that, it would be helpful if you would call the administrator and let her know, and then we could do something about it. Because honestly, there's nothing that we can do about it if you just come to a council meeting and complain about it. You have to let us know at a time
It
that
just
something
happened
can be
this
done.
past week with garbage, with the pickup.
I'm just saying,
So I'm letting you know
honestly, I'm not
now.
trying to argue with you, I'm just trying to tell you that if you see, and I say this to anybody, if you see that something improper happens, let the borough know at the time that it happens, and then we can look into it and deal with it. It's just, that's the only way that it can be dealt with. So let us know when it happens.
If I could just comment on your comment, thank you, Mr. McComb, just real quickly, when we comment to people, are we changing policy now? Okay, you're one of the lucky ones. 300 block of Pine did not get picked up this week. Borough Hall was notified about that. They then came the day after. I received a call from a constituent tonight, somewhere about middle of Center Street, was not picked up. She called the DPW, was called back by the DPW, told to call Borough Hall, and she did notify Borough Hall about that. So again, you're one of the lucky ones. It may not have been done well, but yours got picked up. There's still missing spots at Garwood.
Okay. Secondly, third now is when you go back to Law's license. What have we done with the dumpsters? Have we continued on with that?
Yes, we have. I have a little report on that later, but as Mr. Arnott said, he has it right now. Basically, the draft in our own council people language, I guess, of the dumpster ordinance that we're looking at, and then he's putting it in legal terms, so it's suitable for an ordinance. And we're hoping that we'll get that back in time so that we can discuss it at the next council meeting. And then from there, if everyone's on the same page, then we'll move on to to introducing that ordinance. But it does address some of the concerns you had before, like during snow emergencies, the dumpsters absolutely cannot be on the street and so forth, so.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none at this time,
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mayor.
so, second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
We'll reconvene at 7:50, please.
Oh, really?
Yes.